So now, Engineer PS Praveen will introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Manjunath.
Uh, I just wanted to keep it very short and sweet.
Yeah.
Dr. Manjunath is a very accomplished data scientist, and he is going to be associated with us, and he's got a lot of knowledge in how to run, analyze large chunks of data and machine learning. And he's specialized in Tableau, a certain type of data science tool. And in coming days, I will request Manjunath also to do a full day workshop on data science and machine learning for our community and benefit from that community. Thank you all. And I'll ask Manjunath to go ahead with the program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to thank the Institution of Engineers India, Tamil Nadu State Center, and Madurai Local Center. Well, when we had a discussion saying that we need to have a webinar on the data science and ML for business, the common question which rolled out on the table was that data science for whom, by the way, and what is the data science? So here we have made an attempt to crystal clear the definition of what this data science and machine learning, how these two things will be utilized or used in the perspective of a business. So in that mindset, today we'll be initiating the discussion. And when we say that data science, we have a winning formula here which says that it certainly starts with a question mark, and you can see something here: data, new technology, data scientist is equal to action. Now, when we hear a word called as the scientist, the sudden thing what triggers our mind is all about the scientist, rocket science, and something like a spaceship. But truly speaking, when we talk about the data science, this is so beautiful. Why? Because it is a multidisciplinary, and this is not only someone's cup of tea. When you look at the terms here in the slide, when I say the winning formula consists of the four components: the hypothesis, the data, new technology, the data scientist, put together the action. Now, when I say put together action, in the business world, huge amount of data is available. The question is, how is that we make use of that data to ensure that the decisions or the forecasting is done in order to maximize the revenue, in simple words. Not necessarily an MBA guy is required to answer what is data science, or not necessarily the engineering guy is required to say what the data science is all about. That is the reason I would claim saying that it is a multidisciplinary. So hypothesis demands always saying that how good we are at in terms of the statistics. And when I say the data, do we have the enough knowledge, like how the data has to be treated? I always mention one point when we talk about the data. This data is nothing but like a newborn baby. The way how we nurture the baby, in the similar way, the data has to be nurtured. When I say the great statistician happens to be the accidental statistician, and he says that all models are wrong, only some are useful. Therefore, we need to be aware of which model we will be using for the type of the data. In a way, like how a baby is nurtured by different community, different religion, different geographic location. In the similar way, the data has got something called as the structured data, unstructured data. And sometimes the data has to be nurtured in that way. It should be a supervised, or it can be a unsupervised, or it can be something called as the reinforcement learning, which we cover as a part of the machine learning is concerned. Therefore, we have to put together the management, non-management, technical, non-technical, all the platform will be playing a predominant role put together to call the data scientist as a role is concerned. Now we will run through what exactly is that. But before that, I have some facts which are really interesting. I'm sure we all are aware of this. Every minute we can see that what is going on with respect to the data or the internet is concerned, right? So I have given some 4 points for the quick reading for yourself. Otherwise, we can see here, we send 204 million emails for every 60 seconds and generate 1.8 million Facebook likes and see 278,000 tweets and upload 2 lakh photos to Facebook, which is otherwise the data is taking birth. We never thought of like what is all about the likes, the posts. Yes, for Facebook, it matters a lot. In the first example, for Twitter, it matters a lot. Even for the LinkedIn, it matters a lot. In a similar way, Google, the search engine, it processes on an average 40,000 search queries per second when you look into that. And it makes a big data in terms of the data size is very huge in a single day. And around 100 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. And that now, it should not be 100, it should be more double or thrice. I really don't know, because we do not have the statistics as of now. And this epidemic situation has given a scope for everyone now to come over on the platform, the online platform, right? And the last point is so funny here. If you burn all the data created in just one day onto DVDs, then definitely it is that the distance and the time which you take to reach the moon twice is what the time required, and the size, the quantity is required in terms of the burning data. Now, having said all these interesting facts, today's data occupy an area of land equal in size almost to 6,000 football fields, if I put across in a very simple sense. But as I already said, keeping in mind the present situation, even this can be 12,000 football fields as of now. Why? Because the scope is like that. Right. So the evolution of data is what first I would like to understand before we talk about the data science or the machine learning. So somewhere in the 1970s, people were talking about the mainframes. I understand when my grandpa used to talk about, say, the data or the kind of technology, what they came across. Not necessarily you need to be an engineer, but yes, the kind of language, what they used to, kind of reference. So that gives a kind of, maybe with you also, your elders, when they talk about their experiences by considering some references or citing examples, the old people. So the mainframes, basic data storage, it's a kind of like a basic data storage which happened around 1970s. And in 1980s to 1990s, there was a trend where people started talking about the relational databases, wherein the data driven application, the data intensive applications came into existence, especially in the developed nations. So the data utilization was extensive. But today, we all are in the world of the data driven. We are driven by the data. Therefore, everybody has got a challenge now. How is that we make the baby nothing but the data to speak in a way, in a language, how we want? Therefore, when I nurture a baby, I have a language here. When I belong to Karnataka, Kannada happens to be my mother tongue. When I happen to be Tamil Nadu, similarly, the regional language. In the similar way, what kind of languages are used for the data? We have a universal language. And that is really interesting, the machine learning. And for everything, we have the tools and applications. We should really hats off to the technical experts, the technological people. So with this slide, we understand that the classification of the data, starting from the data generation and the storage to the data driven. And we are in the world of the structured data and unstructured data, the multimedia, the Facebook post, the LinkedIn post, the images, the sudden updates, everything is capturing in the name of the data. And how is it we process this? I'm using a word called as the process as well as the data without talking about what is the meaning of it. Why? Because I just wanted to ensure that we all will be on one platform now before we understand what is this data is all about. So there are industries. Before we understand the data, we need to understand where this data is actually used. If you ask me where it is not used, I have no answer. But yes, to put across in a simple sense here in one simple slide, yes, it's in the retail, it's in the manufacturing, it's in the media and telecommunications, financial services, advertising and public relations, energy, healthcare, life sciences, and the government. We should really thank AT currency analysis, wherein they do a lot of analysis when it comes to the data science is concerned. So these businesses consume the data and then transform it to a business model. When I say it transforms to a business model, the question is very simple. Why the businesses are interested in the data? And by the way, what is this data all about? Data is nothing but, it is a response to a transaction. When I say it is a response to a transaction, the moment you post something in the Facebook, you have done a transaction. The moment you comment your friend's post, you have made a transaction. You found an interesting article, you clicked on it, say like, and then you click on the download. It is a transaction. So any transaction which you are doing online, especially the e-based, will be leading towards something called as data. And that data has got the different structures. So not all data is a new data. A wealth of information which is generated in the past years is sitting quite, at least not used effectively. And here comes the role people like the upcoming engineers, the aspirants who want to really do something in the world of the data science, and the management consultants to play a predominant role to take the decisions. Therefore, we understood that there is something called as the data. But before we look into this slide, I want to make one point very clear that every business is interested in multiplying the profits, not doubling the profits. We have come across to that situation now. Gone those days where people talked about the break even, where people talked about doubling the profits. If you look into the Fortune 500 companies, 90% of the companies have invested their money. In olden days, people used to say R&D, research and development, where the majority of the investment goes in the name of the research and development for making new innovations and then trying to business to come out with innovative ideas, the creative techniques, the formulas, and then make money. But today, even they are interested to multiply the profits. So multiplying profits is really possible when we apply and adopt the technology which is called as the big data technology. Now, anyway, we will not talk about the big data, but yes, I have an architecture here. Any person, let's say, addressing it to more to the students, if you happen to be a BE, then you will be having a question saying that in what you can call yourself as a data scientist. If there is a student who belongs to, or a participant belongs to a management, say MBA, then he or she will be definitely having a question saying that to which stream I belong to under the data science. All can be called as a data scientist, provided we need to identify what is our area. Now, if you look into this slide, it is broken into 4 pieces, starting with the storage, processing, application, and then presentation. We need to understand what is going on with this particular slide. When we look at less structured and the more structured, this more structured is nothing but the processes which have taken place, say 1970s to 2020s. We will understand how it is. When the data takes birth, it has to be stored somewhere. Therefore, we have something called as loosely structured and highly structured data, which happens to be at the very bottom level here. The distributed file system is what the data storage, where you talk about to store the data. And then you talk about the relational databases, you talk about the RDBMS, you talk about the DBMS. And then the question is, we have the highly structured data, unstructured data, no relational structured data, but yes, everything is sitting under one block, which is called as the storage. When the data is in the storage, now I'll have to pick it up to process. How is it we process? There is a system to process it, and most of the engineering guys are very much familiar with the SQL, NoSQL, MySQL. Yes, you can see here in the second block, which talks about the stream processing, you have a web crawl processing. You also have something called as parallel and distributed processing and storage. So in-memory processing, SQL, and then you have something called as the ETL. So very interestingly, the data is in the storage, and how is it I pick up that? Using the applications. Once I pick it up, say the data processing, what is that you really want to apply it for? What kind of processing you really want to do? Therefore, the application talks about the sentiment analysis, the business intelligence, and you can see something called as analytics services now. This is where everybody play a predominant role. Predictive modeling, forecasting and simulation, process optimization. It's a very big architecture. This is widely accepted across the world with no say the second thought. Why? Because it has to be followed. If you really want to play with the data and then make the data to speak in a language which you really want. Now, when the data is stored in the stored databases, I want to pick it up in the name of the processing, and using the applications, we will try to figure out the decisions We are interested in terms of forecasting what is stored, what is awaited for us in the coming days, in the future days. So there is the role which is called as the predictive modeling in the analytics space. Trust me, analytics is not a new term. My students regularly ask me a question saying that, is this a new specialization? Like how we have in the MBA finance specialization, marketing specialization, HR specialization, they say, is analytics a new specialization? Not really. As we know that the data is from the ages, but those days we didn't make use of that data to that extent. And now we have realized it, and it matters a lot. Therefore, it is very important to know how is that we process, using what we process. The question is, when we process the data, we have to make data to speak. Therefore, how will you ensure the data is understanding your instructions? Therefore, you need a language, right? Like how we talk to our kids, in a similar way, we have to talk to the data. When we say talk to the data, we need a learning. We need a machine learning. And again, when I say machine learning, my students always ask a question saying that they are aware of, unfamiliar with the word learning, and what is the difference between the word they are aware of the learning and the machine learning. The answer lies very simple. Machine understands, machine forecast, machine predicts. It understands, and it has got a language, say R, a statistical programming language, or Python, which is again a machine learning language, which will be helping the data and the models to understand what it is. Now the last component is in the architecture of a big data. You have consumed the data, you have analyzed it, you have processed it using the tools, the right tools which are in place. The question is, how is it you present? Trust me, my dear participants, gone those days again, the PPTs, the PowerPoints, Microsoft PowerPoint. And these Microsoft PowerPoints are still. Again, I'm using a PowerPoint here, it is still. It is not interactive to you. Therefore, now we have a sophisticated tools, the advanced visualization tools, for example, Tableau. It is so fantastic here. You make the data to speak in a more meaningful way, in an interactive way, by creating the dashboards. When I say creating a dashboards, we will have to explore what the Tableau is all about. But yes, this session is based on only to provide an input on the higher level overview of the entire the architecture. We will be just talking about what it actually plays a predominant role, right? So you may come out with the charts, you may come out with the graphs, you may have to come out with some scatter plots or a kind of histograms. And let's say you have seen the English movies, they'll be having a kind of screen they touch and then suddenly something appears. And if you click on something, again, something appears. Yes, that's a kind of the interactive presentation which is really required today. We have Tableau, we have Power BI, sophisticated tools which can be used in terms of making the presentation. So starting from the data when it takes birth as a part of the transaction, which is the result of it, the response to a transaction, storing it, processing it, analyzing it, and then making it in a more meaningful and a presentable manner is what the question. So this is the entire structure of the architecture. Now let's get into something called as the data science. As I already said, it's interdisciplinary. I should really thank the world or the data science world, which has given a platform for everyone to play a predominant role. Even the medical practitioners are, yes, can be called as the data scientist. Any person want to play with the data by applying either the processing, either the analyzing, either the visualization, yes, they can call themselves as the data players in simple words. So the data science is an interdisciplinary field which basically uses the scientific methods, the processes, the algorithms, and the systems which we have seen in the case of the architecture is concerned. Why is that we say the data science is all about the interdisciplinary, making use of the process algorithm? It's basically to extract the knowledge and insights from many structural and unstructured data. So we are talking about the structured and unstructured data. So it's a quite again a silly thing here when we say the structural data and the unstructured data.
See, if the data is in a simple tabular format for you to read, it is very easy. Just by looking into the statistics. Let's say most of the media news channel will put across on a daily basis the corona cases. When you look into that, it is so structured. And you can take a kind of decision. You can make a kind of comment or a meaningful insight by looking into that table saying that which state has got the highest numbers. But now, the data is not structured. When I say you click on like, when you say you comment, you upload the photographs. How is that data? That data is not structured. That is the reason we need the processes, the algorithms, and the systems in place to read such kind of unstructured data in a more meaningful insight and then to take a decision. So why is it we are interested in that? We are interested in that. Why? Because the data science is related to data mining, deep learning, and then ultimately the big data, whether I'm coming from the management stream or from the technical stream. But yes, it is all about the data mining, deep learning with the help of the machine learning, and big data if the data is processed as per the architecture which we talked about. There is again a contrary statement. The data scientists, the data science, the data people, the BE degree or the data analytics degree when it comes to the MBA, where and who will be leading towards the data scientist. So here the crystal clear information is very clear for us. The data scientists have the business acumen. They need to know what the business is all about and analyzing skills. When I say analyzing skills, every business is interested in making profits and they have the technology. People coming from the technological background should really help these businesses or any businesses to analyze how is it they can make money. And our role is in that when we talk about the data context. It's an ability to mine, clean, and present data. The architecture has already given a clear picture for us. The data is simply sitting in the name of the storage. That data can be a structured or unstructured. How is it I pick up it to process it using the SQL? Or say you have a MySQL, NoSQL, which you talk about, the applications. You also have Hadoop, which I'll be talking about sometime later. And then how is it you analyze the business intelligence using the statistics? Then how will you present it to the ultimate owners, the stakeholders? And the businesses are very, very interested in the data scientists. And that is the reason they're trying to source the data scientists. Why? Because the businesses want the data scientists to manage, analyze the huge amount of data, especially in the form of the unstructured data. I can give you a very simple example here. You have browsed very recently the Nike shoes in the Amazon. And after 1.5 months, or say in the next week, when you browse through your Facebook account, suddenly you can see the right side or the left side an ad about the Nike shoes. Now, we or the user always feel that, oh my God, see, it's a kind of coincidence. I wanted to buy Nike shoes. And when I get into my Google search engine or say the Facebook, automatically I can see the ads, which is proposing me about the Nike shoes and the other company shoes. And I feel that, okay, this is a great timing and I should go and buy it. Yes, the user will have that feeling. But the question is, how is that Amazon is capable of throwing that piece of advertisement to a user like me and you? Because we have searched such type of products in the Amazon platform. So the Amazon platform has the big data technology, and that happens to be the first in the e-market segment, e-services, the e-businesses, wherein they multiplied their profits. And that is the interest which businesses are very much interested in. Therefore, what is it we need when we are talking about the data science? I believe by looking into the participants, we have all the interdisciplinary participants. So we need skills, which is nothing but the SAS, the statistical application software knowledge, R programming language, Python programming language as a part of your machine learning. You need to have a statistical, the mathematical skills. You need to have a storytelling and data visualization. Yeah, storytelling and data visualization. I suddenly remembered that. My students generally ask, what is the storytelling is all about? Is it something like how their grandpa says story? Yeah, trust me, it is nothing but the same. You have to tell a story in such a way wherein the audience will be able to understand what is it you're trying to speak about. Yeah, that can be done with the help of the data after processing using the sophisticated tools like Power BI or even Tableau. Tableau has got a feature which is called as the dashboard creation as well as the storytelling. It's a kind of like the way how we process one by one, the step by step. In the similar way, the data, the analysis, the results can be shared in the name in the form of the storytelling. Therefore, we need to have something called as the Hadoop skill, SQL, and ultimately the machine learning, which is nothing but the R or a Python. So the data scientist is all about basically to mine, clean, and then present data. That's all. So now the interesting question, machine learning. So before we get into this machine learning, I want to stress on one important point. See, machine learning can be understood by anyone very easily. Let us take two samples. One belongs to a technical and the other set of sample belongs to non-technical. Non-technical can be even the management, let's say the MBA guys for the example here. And the first set, which I said belongs to the technical. How is that they look into the machine learning? And how is that the non-technical guys look into the machine learning? Is what the question is. Either of the person definitely should ensure that they have the knowledge of the statistics. Why? Because this machine learning is a part and parcel of your architecture, which we have already seen. And there you have something called as business intelligence. So business intelligence is all about using the statistics. Remember my very second slide, which talked about the hypothesis with a question mark? That hypothesis is nothing but the statistics. If we have the enough background about the statistics, then I'm sure we will be playing very easily with the data in the form of the machine learning. Therefore, now the machine learning is all about an application of AI, the artificial intelligence. Right? So this machine learning provides the ability, let's say, a quick learning based on the past experiences without explicitly being so programmed. When I say this, machine wants to learn so quickly. I'm a learner, you're a learner. Machine is also a learner, and machine is so curious to learn the things. When it is guided, that is called as supervised machine learning. When it is not guided, like an Ekalavya says, I learn myself. That is called as unsupervised learning. We have one more category of a machine learning, which is really interesting. Reinforcement machine learning. My life, my style, it says. So these three categories play a predominant role when it comes to the machine learning. I'll take a very simple example here for the supervised learning. Teachers are called as the data sets. Students are called as the models. Now, these data sets will guide the model, will train the models, and the trained models will take the decisions in the future. And that is what the supervised learning is all about. So supervised learning can be done with the help of the machine learning, and that is one of the type. The second category is we really do not have the guides. It is unsupervised learning. The another simple example is online learning over Coursera, where is no instructions, but yes, you will be clicking on the start course and then you will start learning yourself. Unsupervised learning. The another type of learning is that the machine learning is that reinforcement learning. The kind of attitude or the impression is very simple. My life, my style, I learn according to it. Meaning the data and the models will not be having a guide. Therefore, it tries to find out the patterns on the basis of the past behavior. On the basis of the past behavior and the patterns, it calculates, programs using your algorithms, and then tries to come out with the predictive modeling. And that is what machine learning always does. Therefore, it focuses on the development, the programs that can access the data and use it, learn from themselves by keeping in mind supervised, unsupervised reinforcement one can understand the machine learning. And if I really want to have a very good skill, let's say I want to be very good trainer or a professional in the machine learning, then I need to possess a skill called as the analytical skills. I need to possess a skill called as the statistics. Without statistics, I cannot run a code. I cannot run even a simple code. Now, the question for the technical and the non-technical sample participants is very clear. Do we need to come with the codes? Do we need to remember the codes? Trust me, the codes are already available. When you talk about the R, we already have a R database. If you just click on that, you will get the programs, predetermined programs, the codes. Copy, paste, and then give a variable naming, and then run it, and then you'll get the output. Not a rocket science at all. But yes, the technical people, if they really want to go into the development area, then there comes the role saying that what is that they are inventing a new, not making use of which is available. They have a huge scope to play over there. So the data science life cycle talks about the 5 components. It is nothing but the cycle based on the architecture which we already aware of. The architecture says that the storage and then processing, you will analyze, and then you will present. In a similar way, you have here capture, process it, and then maintain, communicate, analyze. If you see here, you can correlate. You will capture the data. You will capture the data, meaning that every transaction in the world, every transaction leading to birth of a data. Therefore, how is that I use this data in terms of processing, in terms of analyzing, in terms of communication? Now, let's take a very simple sense here. When we talk about the maintaining the data, we talk about the data warehouse, the data storages. And there we talk about the data cleaning, data stacking, data processing, and then the ultimate data architecture. Why? Because the generated data may or may not be structured. But trust me, today it is all about the unstructured data which all the businesses are interested into. And that is the reason we need to know the data mining processes, the clustering data processes, and the data modeling and the data summarization. Analyze is what the section you will be using the machine learning effectively, let's say the R or a Python, to make the exploratory or the confirmatory analysis, predictive analysis. You will be applying the regression, correlation, text mining. It's all about the quantitative and the qualitative analysis, which you'll be doing. Once you're done with the analysis, you have the results, you have the insights. Therefore, you will have to present it. How will you present? You'll present using a data reporting, data visualization, business intelligence, ultimately to take a decision. So this is at the nutshell, the cycle is all about. Well, there is something which is really interesting when we talk about the machine learning, the process. How is that the machine learning process looked at? As I give an example, teachers are nothing but the data sets, students are nothing but the models in one of the type of the machine learning, which is called as the supervised. You just remember that example, which means that the models have to be guided by the data sets. Therefore, if I have the enough statistic background, I have to remember one statement given by the accidental, the great statistician, saying all models are wrong. Only some are useful. Therefore, I need to know which is useful. I cannot use regression for all the data. Trust me, when my students come with the data and the projects, they say, sir, we have applied the regression and the correlation. Almost all the students say that they've applied the regression and the correlation. And if I ask a question, why is that you have applied? They say, we have seen in the past, people have used it, so even I'm using it. They have lost the presence to identify what that model is talking about. Correlation is talking about the direction, the relationship, the behavior, in which direction it is going. And the regression talks about whether a variable is talking about the influential factor on the other variable. Now, when we fail to understand what kind of the data set we have, and how is that we ensure the models we are using. I'm sorry, that is the sensitive area. And most of the researchers, I love research. Being an active researcher, I use a lot of tools and techniques. and I come across something called as what kind of tools I need to apply. At times, even I'll be having a second thought saying that, should I have to use this because the literature review says? I question myself again. Why? Because I always remember that statement, the great accidental statistician says, all models are wrong, only some are useful. But remember what kind of data you're using. What is that analysis you're trying to do? Get the list of your models, investigations, the test, and identify what is the right one. So pre-processing, learning, and the error analysis is all about the machine learning. And you will have to train the data, and that is what the slide in the phase one talking about. In the phase one, you talk about the training data, and this phase two, you talk about the models. When I say models, it's all about the prediction. When you have the data which is in the structured or unstructured, the rule says that make it more standardized. The standardization of the data, and when you standardize the data, the immediate question is, how is that you're going to minimize and then clean your data, and then you will consume only that data which is required to make an analysis. And when you process it, you will get to know whether it is a right fit or not the right fit. Anyway, when we get into a kind of dedicated trainings, we will be getting in detail about that. So let me stick myself to the overview level here. When we talk about the model, in the second phase, which is called as the prediction, we have something called as the big data technology, which is leading towards ultimate thumb rule is that they want to predict for the decision making to make business profits. That's all. And that is what the machine learning will be helping any person who really wants to make the analysis and then help the businesses. I should help the business. Even you guys also will be working for the businesses to make money. That's all. That is where the machine learning comes into. Therefore, let's look into something called as the contrast now. The data science one aspect, and the another one is all about the machine learning. So when you look into the machine learning, this slide basically helps you to understand yourself. It's a kind of like say unsupervised. So the machine learning basically revolve around developing the new or individual models. When I say models, these statistical decision making models, applying a regression model or say logistic regression model or correlation, a very simple set. We will use a very simple. This proves the mathematical properties of the models which are already in place. And that is the reason I said, when you get into the Python or R, you already have the set of codes which can be used. I would like to thank IIT Madras for coming out with a lot of directories when it comes to the R statistical programming language. You will see a lot of libraries. When I say libraries, set of the codes in simple words are the programs which is readily built in. For example, ggplot2, a library which is widely used for the visualization when you go for the R statistical programming. So basically it consumes that and then explores. Okay, it basically improves and validate a few relatively the data which is maybe in either of the form. But when we talk about the data science, it is looked at the higher overview level, saying that by exploring many models, not necessarily one in the case of the machine learning. So when I say machine learning, if I'm training you guys on a R programming, I'll be having a R studio or R console. I write a code. And then I say command, saying that run, and I get the output in the case of the machine learning. But when I look at the data science, now, as a data scientist or the data science guy, I'll have to explore the many models which are available. Why? Because only after applying the models, you will get to know which is the right model. And that helps you to understand in a more deeper sense, in an empirical way. And that basically helps you in terms of handling the massive data sets, ultimately, the data science. So now we are coming to a stage where we talk about where the data science or the data experts or the analyst are used in the various domain. You talk about the fraud and risk detection, healthcare, internet search, targeted advertising, website recommendations, the remarks, recommendations, advanced image recognition, speech recognition. Yeah, I have seen most of the people, they do not have a patience going Google and then typing, they say Google and then they speak out. And then automatically the search engine throws the results. Yeah. Airline route planning, gaming, gamification, which is a new terminology now in most of the areas. It is taking a deep dive, augmented reality. There are various domains where the data science is exploring. If you ask me again, where the data science is not used, I have no answer. Why? Because though I belong to a management, say MBA finance guy, it is inevitable for me to know the concept of the data science. I need to know. Why? Because when I talk about the business, I should help my businesses to grow in a modern way, not just sitting on a designated chair saying that, okay, we'll listen to everyone and then we'll take a decision. No. Every level, every designation now calls for a demand saying that how good you are at the analytical skills. Now the data science has called for everyone, inevitable for us. Therefore, what are the data scientist skills are? As we already got to know, now let us make it crystal clear as we are approaching time. So programming languages, basically you talk about R, Python. That is the reason you always see when you log into LinkedIn or a Facebook, you will see a lot of training institutes who will come and say free webinars on the certification, online certification. Overnight, you cannot become an expert, trust me. Yeah, you need to have a dedicated learning, especially when it comes to R or Python. Now there is a slash R or Python, and again you have a Java. You guys are aware of it, so I'll not take much about it. So R slash Python. When I talk about R slash Python, R is into these consulting researchers which we generally see. I can take an example of a company, Moody's Analytics. They do use the R statistical programming language in terms of finding meaningful insights. In simple words, they use R to play with the data. Other than that, we see most of the businesses even go with the Python. Therefore, the question lies here saying that should I train myself in both R as well as Python? Now, it is up to you because remember the architecture. When I looked into the architecture, the slide which I've shown, I realized where I fit in. I fit into the business intelligence. I don't want to explore that area which is not my native. So I hope I'm very clear in saying it is not mandated that everybody should know everything. Knowing everything is fine, but getting expertise, it requires, it demands its own time, right? So therefore, let us stick to that. Statistics and applied mathematics, yes. See, the technical guys are very much familiar with the mathematics and statistics. Now you need to see what statistics is for you, whether it is a foreigner or again it is a native. And for the non-technical, for example, the management graduates, statistics native and applied mathematics becomes a foreigner. But yes, you need to know what is that, not necessarily in detail. So working knowledge of Hadoop and Spark. I'm saying working knowledge of Hadoop and Spark, not just Hadoop and Spark. If you really want to get into the big data technology in the space of a development, and then you go and get your domain, get your career job into the Hadoop and the Spark. But I'm not proposing that Hadoop and Spark here. Why? Because we are addressing the data science. So let us have the knowledge of the Hadoop and Spark. Let us have the knowledge on the databases, SQL and NoSQL, without having a knowledge on the SQL and NoSQL. This is the relative of the technical guys, and this is the foreigner for the management graduates. But yes, you need to know what is SQL and what is NoSQL. You will have to have a friend from the technical background, sit with them and understand in a simple sense. Why? Because our friends, the B students or the B graduates, they are very funny and they help us in a very simple sense. And definitely you will get to know what is all about SQL and NoSQL. In the similar way, the technical guys, get in touch with your friends who are into the management and the commerce. They are very good in storytelling when it comes to the statistics. They'll help you in a simple sense. Machine learning and neural networks, proficiency in deep learning frameworks, TensorFlow, you have PyTorch as a skill you need to be aware of. Ultimately, after knowing everything, you need to ensure that are you really a creative thinker? Because that is what the businesses are demanding for. If you know everything in a closed environment, and if you fail to understand what the industry is all about, what the business is all about, then I'm sorry, you may not be sold in the market. Even for me also, if I fail to understand what the business, what the industry is, and then I say I know everything, I have all the skills, that doesn't make sense. Therefore, I need to be very clear on that upfront. So we are coming to the last slide here, which talks about the data job roles. I believe this is the dream slide for the aspirants. If we have the aspirant sitting here in this particular webinar, the data scientist is the ultimate crown for you, but trust me, not immediately after acquiring the certifications you will come across that data scientist designation. Yeah, we have different job roles, starting with the data scientist, data architect, the architecture which you are familiar with, or the data administrator, with data warehousing, the data analyst, business analyst, data or the analytics manager, business intelligence manager. These are the different roles. Well, when I was preparing this PPT for this particular webinar, I was very much impressed to put a slide on the salary numbers. But then I decided, let me not put the slide which talks about the salary numbers, because that may send a very different message. Trust me, within this job role, if you are able to get something called as the analytics manager or a data manager, the data analytics manager, as of now, that is what fetching the maximum package, especially in a region called as the developed nations. So what is that we have understood? Before I say it's 7:26 now, before I say yes, we are about to put a pause, let me summarize in a simple sense. Data is what we tried to understand, and that data is nothing but the baby,
Manjunath,
and that baby has to be nurtured.
Manjunath,
Sir, yes, sir.
I think you should allow some questions because people will have questions, and then we can, if you have time, we can add things.
Yeah, definitely, sir. I'm open for the questions, but before that, I'll just take a minute here.
Yeah.
So understanding over the data at a root level, and then using an applications what is really required in terms of the technical aspects are concerned, and having a statistical background. Having said that, analyzing all the things whatever we do, why? Because the thumb rule is that the businesses will ask a question: how is that you will help me to maximize my revenue? If you have an answer, then you're in. That's it. Now I'm open for the questions.
Bala, any questions?
Anybody have any questions or doubts? Themselves unmute them and then do ask the question.
Yeah, if anybody is having any questions, you can please come forward. Even I was trying to understand here by clicking on the chat also. I don't see a, yeah, two participants have raised the hand. Yes, please. Yeah, I'm waiting for the question. So we have three participants who have raised the hand.
Yourself unmute and then you talk.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It's a very nice presentation for engineers. And what I find, we have, although we are exposed in applications of structural engineering, and what the management level they are trying to do is clearly picturized. Thank you for your effort.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
And then Murugan.
Yeah. Good evening, Manjunath.
Good evening.
It's a
sir.
good session, actually. You didn't put too much of mathematics, everything to threaten the people and everything. Normally, whenever went go into the machine learning or artificial intelligence,
Yes,
they
sir.
put a lot of mathematics and threaten you and everything at night. Moreover, I like very much Praveen blockchain, all his lectures and everything.
Yes.
So I like to know
Yes,
to
sir.
lead, because I have around 30 years of IT experience and everything. If I
Okay.
get an opportunity to lead a data analytics division, okay, what is the level of knowledge I should have it? How should I pick up the team? Is there anything you can able to help through this course or anything?
Yes, sir. We have a kind of model which our friend Praveen is. I'm sure Praveen sir has come out with a lot of programs which will be assisting people in terms of redefining themselves. Let's say you want to be at a data analytics manager at that position with the 30 years of experience. Definitely there is something which we have to look into the data architecture which I've shown, sir. And in the data architecture we will have to identify your major strengths, and the right approach have to be applied on, say, machine learning or business intelligence on the basis of your background. So you said your background is all about the IT, and therefore the two components from the data architecture which talks about the storage and the processing, if those two platforms are so sound, then definitely you will be ruling your teams. And that is where your experience with the help of the analytical skills and helping your team to adapt the new things and then proceed in terms of getting the things done in simple sense, say the predictive modeling or whatever it is. So that will suffice. So I would like to welcome Praveen sir also to answer
Yeah,
this question. Why?
actually,
Because 30
actually,
years of experience is huge.
no, no, no. In this, sir, what we are planning is to, this is not only one off and then leave it off. We're going to have a follow-up 6 hours workshop in the coming months, maybe in month of August or something. And we will open it up. It's a paid one, and we are trying to keep it nominal. And we are going to give it to our fraternity who can want to upgrade like you and become a data scientist, and it will create a certification, also a authentic certification on blockchain, such a way that